Good morning. So today I am going to read I Explain a Few Things and the Space for English 9. And we'll go over a few things about the story and the authors. So I Explain a Few Things by Pablo Neruda. Just looking at history and culture, make sure you log into your English 9 course today and you look at your plan and you check the announcements. So the history and culture of the two stories based back from the Spanish Civil War. There was a military revolt by the conservative right-leaning nationalists against the Republicans who supported the current democratic left-leaning Spanish government. There were assassinations, executions, and murders committed on both sides of the war. So it was kind of happening on both sides. How it influenced the culture. There's a lens through which we see the world. It influences how we interpret and respond to the event. So depending on which side you were on may or may not have influenced how you saw who was right and who was wrong. Both poems use sensory and figurative language to communicate their meaning. As we read this, so I'm going to read it out loud to you, think about what was going on and think about it being a war and think about what the poems are representing. Listen to the words, hear the words, use your sight, use your sound, think about the smells and the hearing. Think about the experience that is happening because of the wars that are happening in these stories, okay? So the first poet, Pablo Neruda, was born in 1904 and lived till 1973. He was born Ricardo Elcer Nafital Reyes Basalato, was a Chilean diplomat, a poet, a politician, and a supporter of Spanish Republicans. He was stationed in Spain during the Spanish Civil War. Neruda recorded the horrors of the war and the execution of his friend Federico Garcia Lorca. Neruda won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1971, and here's a picture of him. So I explain a few things is what we're about to read. Moors, just a few vocabulary words, is a group of people who conquered and ruled over Spain from the 8th century to the mid 15th century. And Arwes is a neighborhood in Madrid. Okay, that's how you pronounce that. I'll put the pronunciation right there for you. All right, here's the poem. You will ask, and where are the lilacs, and the metaphysical blanket of poppies, and the rain that often struck your words, filling them with holes and birds? I'm going to tell you all that is happening to me. I lived in a quarter of Madrid with bells and clocks with trees. From there one could see the lean fence of Spain like the ocean of leather. My house was called the House of Flowers because it was bursting everywhere with geraniums. It was a fine house with dogs and children. Raoul, do you remember? Do you remember Raphael? Federico, do you remember the ground? Do you remember my house with the balconies where June light smothered flowers in your mouth? Brother, brother! Everything was great, shouting, salty goods, heap of throbbing bread, markets of Aurel's quarter with its statue like a pale inkwell among the haddock. The olive oil reached the ladles, and the deep throbbing of feet and hands filled the streets. Meters, liters, sharp essence of life, fish piled up, patterns of roofs with cold sun on which the vein grows weary. Frenzied fine ivory of the tomatoes stretching into the sea. And one morning all was aflame, and one morning the fires came out of the earth, devouring people, and from then on fire, gunpowder from then on, and from then on blood. Bandits with airplanes and with Moors, bandits with rings and duchess, bandits with black-robbed fires, blessing came through the air to kill children, and through the streets of blood and of children ran simply like children's blood. jackals that the jackal would spurn, stones that the dry thistle would bite, spitting, vipers that vipers would abhor. Facing you, I have seen the blood of Spain rise up to drown you in a single wave of pride and knives. Treacherous generals, look at my dead house. Look at my broken Spain. But from each dead house comes burning metal instead of flowers. But from each hollow of Spain, Spain comes forth. But from each dead child comes a gun with eyes. But from each crime are born bullets that will one day seek out in you where the heart lies. You will ask, why does your poetry not speak to us of sleep, of the leaves, of the great volcanoes of your native land? Come and see the blood in the streets. Come and see the blood in the streets. Come and see the blood in the streets. So if you listen to him tell the poem in the beginning, he's talking about the flowers and all the vegetables and everything growing at the beginning. And he sounds very happy and very gleeful. And then what happens? The mood changes. War takes over his nation. And all he sees is war. All he sees is destruction. You can hear it in the sound of his words. He's devastated. He's not talking about flowers anymore. It's sadness and destruction and death. His poem does not sound happy and beautiful anymore. It's sad because of the wars that have happened. So let's look at the other poem. So the rhyme scheme for I explain a few things is there is no rhyme scheme. It's a free verse. Rhyme scheme means that it flows in such a way that you might hear every other verse, like hickory dickory dock, the mouse ran up the clock. So you hear how those words rhyme. That's a rhyme scheme. And in I explain a few things, you don't hear a rhyme scheme. So it's considered to be a free verse. And the narrator lives in Madrid. We hear that. And he uses several literary devices. What literary devices does he use? The lean face of Spain, like the ocean of leather. We've talked about those several times. And then again, what is happening? We've talked about this. And one morning all was aflame, and one morning the fires came out of the earth, devouring people. Suddenly there is war. He's sad. All right, let's look at the other one. The second poem is by a gentleman named Gary Soto. He is a Mexican American. He was born in 1952. He was raised in Fresno, California. He has been awarded the Andrew Carnegie Medal and the United States International Poetry Forum. His poems often focus on life experiences and his own heritage as a Mexican American. So this particular poem is called The Space. And I just wanted to bring up some vocabulary here. So the chula, the prickly pear. The prickly pear is a shaped fruit of cactus. It's what you see down here in the picture, this bright cactus with the pink on it. Those are prickly pears, and you can eat them, and they're actually quite tasty. A javelina is a wild pig or a wild boar. What you see in the other picture is a javelina. And they're quite mean, quite wild, and quite smelly too. And then parables are short, simple stories that illustrate a moral or religious lesson. So here is the short parable or short poem of, the space. West of town, near Hermosa's well, I sleep sometimes, in a hammock of course, among avocado trees, cane, spider-grass, the hatchet-faced chula, the banana's umbrella of leaves. It is here, in the spiny brush, where roosters gabble, where the javelina lies on its side like an overturned high heel. I say it is enough to be where the smells of creatures braid like rope, and to know if the grasses rustle, it's only a lizard passing. It is enough, brother, listen to a bird coo, a leash of parables, keep an eye on the moon, the space between cork trees where the sun first appears. And that's it. He's just basically talking about nature. What is the rhyme scheme of space? Of the space, again, it's a free verse. And another example here, what might be an example of a simile in this little piece of the space? It is here in the spiny brush where the roosters gabble, where the javelina lies on its side like an overturned high heel. Remember what a simile is. It compares something using the words like or as. So if you look at the very last line, the author is comparing the javelina when it's laying on its back, how its legs are in the air. It looks like a shoe with its legs in the air. It looks like a shoe upside down, like a high heel. And if you look at the picture of the javelina, you can kind of see how it kind of could look like a high heel, right? All right, so if you have questions about either of those stories, please don't hesitate to email me or email your English teacher while I'm out. I'm only going to be gone today, so if you have questions, I will be back tomorrow, and we'll wrap up this unit tomorrow on Friday, and I'll see you then. All right, have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.